Let's see. Hang on. I need to see what are the religious beliefs of Maynard James Keenan. I need to know. Because of the music. There it is. Yeah. Because of 46 and 2. Because of Lateralis. Because of the music that I'm listening to. With Pussifer, with Perfect Circle, with Tool. I need to know what his religious beliefs are, and I don't know as of right now. We're going to listen to this. This is supposedly a 9-minute. I was watching like a minute of it, and then I started over. I was like, I want to just go live and kind of talk about Maynard's religious beliefs. Maynard talks about the occult and mysticism, so I just want to hear what he says. I consider myself a mystic, and I want to hear what his perspectives are on mysticism. Tool Army reporting for duty. Let's G-O. Absolutely. There it is. So let's see.
Would I be right in saying that an awful lot of your lyrics are kind of about spirituality and how you feel inside?
See, he said, whoever is doing the hosting here said that a lot of Maynard's songs, a lot of his writing is about spirituality and how he feels inside. Like, I feel that way too. I feel like Maynard is very evasive, and maybe he's intentionally evasive. You know, like I watch his interviews on the Joe Rogan podcast. He's done a couple of interviews on YouTube, and you know, so it's not as if he's like completely hidden away. He's actually kind of a funny guy too. I watched that video where Maynard kind of did that because Maynard either does jujitsu or he's a black belt in something, I think. But you know, Maynard can fight. But he did this really, really hilarious kind of stunt with this comedian. I don't know if you guys saw that. The guy who kind of catches knives between his arms, and it's a joke. But Maynard, you know, he kind of lets his personality out there. But you know, I'm very interested in who Maynard is religiously, what he thinks about the world in those terms.
I'm just intrigued to know, where do you come from spiritually? What do you do to maintain your spiritual condition and progression?
I think most religions have some kind of space that they've set up in whatever manner where you afford yourself, or you're being told to afford yourself a space to meditate.
So the first thing that he says is, okay, meditation is like, I guess, worldview transcendent.
Even I'm not a big fan of the Western religions, Catholicism. I was raised Southern Baptist. But even so, those religions always have that space where you have to go to confession. You have to sit in a box and vent for a few minutes and take a deep breath, or you have to sit on your knees and pray. And that's what it's all about.
You know, so he starts off by talking about confession, and the way he says, like, you have to sit in a box, you know, and kind of confess to this person who's on the other side. You know, I don't know whether or not he's using that as a criticism, or maybe that's just his way of talking or whatever. But I talk on this channel a lot about Dante's Inferno, where, you know, it says, I found myself in a forest dark, for the right way had been lost. That's how it begins. It starts with a confession that I'm lost. And that is the beginning of any heroic journey, of kind of admitting that you have a problem, because on the way to the goal state, you have to identify the current state, right? How can you reach a goal if you don't first admit, out loud, to yourself? You kind of see, in AA meetings, in Alcoholics Anonymous, or in drug recovery programs, the first step is like admission, right? Saying like, hi, my name is blah, blah, and I'm a heroin addict, or I'm an alcoholic. So that confession is an idea, I think that does do a lot of good work. But I want to hear him continue here.
A few minutes and take a deep breath, or you have to sit on your knees and pray. And that's what it's all about. It's almost like the Eastern religion. It's the same thing. It's getting into a lotus position and clearing your mind and just breathing for a few minutes and really making a space for yourself.
I wonder if clearing your mind does the same work. Because I know that I was in the Nichiren Buddhist temple in Colorado Springs, and they do this chant, the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And my wife is very detailed about what precisely it is that means. So I'm not going to get myself in trouble with her by trying to, lay it out in an improper way or whatever. But I think Maynard is suggesting like the Eastern religions have a way of clearing yourself without necessarily having to confess exactly what it is you did. And, and the Eastern traditions are a lot older. So, maybe they've kind of found a shortcut.
So I think that can be found anywhere as long as you have intent for it to be that. For me, it's, my friends are always complaining that I take long, hot showers. Well, it's one of the few spaces that you can have by yourself with no interference, with the water pounding and kind of drowning out all sounds and the heat, and you just close your eyes. And
I kind of love that. And not picturing Maynard in the shower. That's a pause. That's a big pause, right? That's not what I'm talking about. Hear me out before hear me out, please. What I'm talking about is this idea of secluding oneself, right? Saying that, look, there's a time where you can turn the mind off. And I don't know whether Maynard is necessarily a proponent of that. But, I definitely know that the likes of Rupert Spira, definitely Eckhart Tolle, I don't know if it's Eckhart Tolle or Eckhart Tolle, people say that differently. But, Eckhart in The Power of Now talks about seeing the mind as a tool, right? No pun intended with tool here. But the mind is a tool that you should be able to turn off and put away when you're done using it, right? And so a lot of people who feel fulfilled spiritually, or people who master the art of meditation, are people who know how to get their mind from continually rambling on, right? It's a very important step of your spiritual journey, is learning to disidentify yourself with your thoughts. And, at least according to Eckhart, one of the ways you can do that is noticing the thought itself and noticing that you are not the thought. And then that seems easy until, you try it for the first time. So many of us identify with our thoughts, and then, there's like no gap between thinking and acting. I feel angry, therefore I do this. I feel sad, therefore I do that. Right? It's like the feeling and then the action go hand in hand. And so what Maynard is saying is like, look, when he's in the shower, that's kind of his space for, just allowing, that mental clutter and mental baggage to just kind of melt away. And I respect it. I agree with everything that he said so far.
They're also in the house.
Yeah, I do want to go back a couple bars, let him cook.
With the water pounding and kind of drowning out all sounds and the heat, and you just close your eyes, and then all of a sudden the hot water runs out. You're like, how long have I been in here? So it's that kind of a space that you have to afford yourself every day as an artist. So if I have a spiritual side, it's about trying to be as honest as I can with my words, with the experiences.
You know what's kind of crazy? And guys, leave super chats if you can, if you want. I'll definitely address them before this live is over. I'll try my best to, let's say. But what's interesting is that gives us some highlights into who Maynard is as an artist. He's saying, this is important for my art, right? Putting the mind away and just kind of, just drowning out all of that noise. I want to go back a couple bars, make sure that I heard him correctly. But it sounds to me like he's saying that's a big part. And for me too, for those of you who actually spend time daily meditating, and my wife is far better than me at it, to be sure. Meaning she can meditate, she can stay in there longer. Whereas I'll have some intrusive thought just kind of get me out of it. But I'm still, I'm when I meditate, I do a fairly good job, I think. But one interesting thing, for those of you who are artists, is that it can introduce kind of an attitude of gratefulness. Once you really forget, once you really kind of, turn off, the ears, the eyes, the smells, the thoughts, when you can kind of systematically shut all those things down and really shut them down, even half an hour of doing that daily will just make you a bit more grateful. Because the thing is, if thoughts are clear, are constantly churning, then nothing has any rarity anymore. It puts you in a space where you just start to take everything for granted, right? You ever heard absence makes the heart grow fonder? Well, absence from sensory input, like taking moments of absence, can really, really give you just that perfect altered state of awareness to where, you can overcome a lot of problems that way. A couple bars back.
So if I have a spiritual side, it's about trying to be as honest as I can with my words, with the experiences, because if they're going to translate at all, they have to resonate on some level with the pure friction of what went on, whatever that might be. Get to get that onto paper, and not so much worry about the consequences of it.
Sorry guys, I got to hear him say that one more time. I got to go back just a little bit there.
At all, they have to resonate on some level with the pure friction of what went on, whatever that might be. Get to get that onto paper, and not so much worry about the consequences of it. You're gonna, because it is friction, and it is your point of view of friction, you're gonna get some flack from people if they recognize that the friction was about them, or not. They might appreciate it that you helped them work through it as well. But the combination of trying to be honest with that, and then finding your place to pray every day, whatever that is, just find some space to breathe. I guess that would be my spiritual side.
So you hear how he's translating it. This is one of the things, and it shouldn't come as a shock. It doesn't come as a shock to me that Maynard has the ability to do those translations to where he said, pray, or, just breathe and kind of get a hold of yourself, get a hold of your spiritual side. He didn't denigrate prayer for those who practice it. He just translates it to something that those who are in his space understand, while kind of understanding the value of calling it prayer.
Work through it as well. But, the combination of trying to be honest with that, and then finding your place to pray every day, whatever that is.
Whatever that
is. Find some space to breathe. I guess that would be my spiritual side.
I see quite a lot of stuff on the websites to do with the occult and Abramelin and Enochian theorem and all that. Is that?
That's more Danny. Danny's more into the Enochian stuff. I appreciate it, definitely. I've studied world religions and.
Okay, so wait a second. Danny, the drummer, is into Enochian stuff. What does that mean? Because does that give Danny his superpower? Guys, what if we figured out that the Enochian stuff, or whatever that is just like a bunch of like world-class drummers, and like that's what they do in their occult rituals. Oh boy, I wonder what I hope that he unpacks that. Maybe we could find Danny talking about that. I'm interested.
And all that is that.
That's more Danny. Danny's more into the Enochian stuff. I appreciate it, definitely. I've studied world religions and have dabbled in some of the Crowley stuff, but and read up a lot about the Templars and Rosicrucians and the original Freemason movement.
I mean, it's like a huge pool of ideas, basically, you know, and all of those, a lot of those specific ideas have been kind of downtrodden quite a bit, and unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of creative stuff in there, you know, that could be really appreciated by a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily go and look because it's been given like a bad, you know, a bad facade or whatever. So it's just kind of like a massive, you know, anything with new, fresh ideas, different ways of, you know, creating images or sounds is.
I really don't know if I like the interviewer. Like, he's like, you know, there's lots of different ways of thinking about it. A lot of different sounds and symbols, and you know,
it's positive, you know.
Yeah, a lot of these artists, a general undertone to their work has been free thinking, really understanding your connection with the universe and your ability to create within it, and that's definitely a danger in most people's eyes.
I wish that Maynard would talk a little bit more about the friction, because it's not neutral. I don't get the sense, even though I knew intuitively that Maynard's position on religion was far more complicated than I had heard before, you know, I was introduced to his music. Because before I started reacting to Tool, you know, a lot of people would tell me about Maynard is like, oh, he's just an atheist. He just very, you know, has a chip on his shoulder about religion. And it's like, when, you know, fine. But when I started listening to his music and hearing how intelligent it was actually, and how nuanced it was, and how kind of well thought out the ideas were, I knew that there had to be something a little bit deeper. There had to be something a little bit deeper than that. So I'm still hoping, because I haven't reached it in this interview yet, I'm hoping that Maynard gets into the reason why he's a little bit more aggressive when it comes to fundamentalist ideas or dogmatic ideas, right? Because it's not neutral. When I listen to his music, it's definitely not neutral.
So when you're speaking of people like Crowley or, say, Stanislav Bukowski, a lot of it has to do with, that's why these are downtrodden artists. Bill Hicks, you know, same thing. He was definitely, you know, about the free thought. And oddly enough, they die. It's a strange phenomenon.
He said, oddly enough, they die. You know, that sounds like a line in a Tool song, right? Oddly enough, they die. It's Maynard's humor, right? It's a very dark kind of humor. He's like, oddly enough, they die just sounds like something that he would just write in a song lyric. Because it's like, you know, they're so powerful. The cult leaders, they're so, you know, they're so sure of themselves. They're sure that they get it. They're sure that the aliens are coming to pick us all up on this exact date. And oddly enough, they die. It's dark, but it's in line with you know, Maynard's character to me.
A lot of it has to do with, that's why these are downtrodden artists. Bill Hicks, you know, same thing. He was definitely, you know, about the free thought. And oddly enough, they die. It's a strange phenomenon. So I think that's why, you know, that we kind of resonate with that ideal, where you're really trying to push the idea of free thinking and your ability to create.
If there was a single sort of core Tool element, would it be think for yourself?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting. So he said the core element of Tool, or the core tool that you're supposed to be getting from Tool, is to think for yourself. I think there was one. There was somebody who put a comment on one of the Tool reactions that said that, Maynard was working a crowd and he was doing a concert and he said, repeat after me, think for yourself. And the crowd says, think for yourself. And he's like, question authority. And the crowd says, question authority. And he says, think for yourself. And they say, think for yourself. And he's trying to kind of get them to see that they're not thinking for themselves if they're obeying his command to repeat after him. So yeah, it's dope to know that it was the that's the major tool that Tool wants you to get is critical thought.
And the think for yourself part works to a point, but when somebody's telling you to think for yourself, it's it's like a snake eating its own tail.
Think for yourself. All right. We're all individuals.
But I mean, there's more.
These interviewers, I'm telling you, man, they weren't ready for the moment, bro. I would be tripping out with Maynard right now. I'd be asking him all kinds of weird questions.
More to it than that. If you just start really delving into the world religions, you start seeing a lot of patterns within them that have to do with a bigger picture of consciousness and your energy within all of that. And I think that's why Danny's really into the ritual magic stuff, because I think Crowley was really into particular movements and rituals and positions and whatnot. That
it's so cool to me that Maynard knows so much about Danny's religious beliefs. It's like it's very rare for a band, like they're so in tune with who each other are, and you can actually hear it in the music. Like sometimes it's more than just what the band is doing. You can actually hear the relationship between these guys through the music that's coming out. It's like, wow, how did this person know to transition here? And how does this part match the lyrics so well? And it's like, it's cool to know that they have that kind of intimacy in their relationship where they know the ins and outs of, their religious investigations kind of as bandmates.
Could actually unlock doors, and you see into different realities in a way. And it's exactly like, I know it doesn't sound like it's exactly like, but there's a friend of mine who was into Qigong and Tai Chi. And he had an amazing master that he studied with. Very quiet man who almost wouldn't give anything up, just kind of gave you basic stuff. We would go to him every, 3 times a week, doing these positions and poses, and he always kind of wondered, what the fuck is this stuff about? But he just did it. He really practiced it. And he said one day, in a room full of 50 people practicing his stuff, he put himself in one of these positions, like the Tai Chi position. And when he got to the position where he's supposed to hold his position, he felt this energy run through his entire body, like he just grabbed a hold of a plug on either end, his toe in his hand, just completely lit him up. I mean, stood his hair on end and everything. And nobody in the room noticed it. He did it, and he's his eyes were all wide open, and he kind of looked across the room, and his instructor went, just kind of gave him a nod. And that was it. That's all they gave him. You know what I mean? So it's the same kind of thing. It's a discipline where you really can unlock some other stuff if you just open yourself up to it and explore.
Explore. I think that Maynard so far has described himself as a mystic. Am I wrong, or is this just wishful thinking? Did I hear him say something like that? Because he was talking about consciousness, and he was saying, look, I've studied all of these world religions, and I have discovered what appears to be a through line. I mean, he's not super educated, and really, he's not a scholar or anything, but he's like, look, I've delved into these world religions. I was raised Southern Baptist, and through my exploration, then they are all have superficial differences and fundamental similarities. And the similarity, which is fundamental, is that there is this consciousness that we are all a small part of, and the key is to access this greater consciousness by, by really thinking about it, by having a pure exploration that's not, tyrannized by too many rules, nor exploited through the the chaos of too little rules. Right? He wants you to think for yourself and kind of set up the parameters of paradise. I agree 100%. I 100% agree. And look, I had a inkling that, Maynard and I would agree on these things. And maybe, look, I mean, I am biased, and so I'm going to read things in, to the way, I think. But, tell me what you think. I can see the chat right now. Let me read a couple of the, somebody says, I bet he said toodaloo at the end, at the end of the interview. Toodaloo is an inside joke on this channel at this point. It says, have you heard the song Disgustipated yet? Disgustipated, I've never heard. Hang on a second, chat. Let me, I want to look up Disgustipated because that's a word I want to use. Disgustipated. By who? Is that Tool or is that Pussifer? Is that Perfect Circle? It's Tool. Yeah, buddy. We should just pull that up and listen to it right here on the stream. You guys want to listen to Disgustipated right here on the stream? I don't know how much longer this interview is. It shouldn't be that much longer. Interviewer sounds a little too stoned. Yeah, bro, this interviewer is like, he had no idea. He had absolutely no clue who he was. And he was like, look, so you're talking about, essentially, basically what you're saying is you want access to the Captain Crunch and the milk is in the refrigerator. Let me see. I'm pretty sure he knew Christianity. His mom was devout. Correct. Yeah. From Wings for Marie, we kind of got that story. And those of us that have followed Maynard's journey since 91, he is a mystic. Talk to me nice. See, that's the thing. Mystics embrace mystics. I'm a Christian mystic, and I call the Sufi Muslims my brothers, and they embrace me as brothers as well. All forms of mysticism embrace other mystics and just agree that what is fundamental is similar. And what's different is superficial. So we're willing to forgive the superficial differences. So I hope that that's true, that Maynard is a mystic. Someone says, you got to do the Undertow album. Listen, buddy. Undertow album? Because I'm listening to Disgustipated for sure. There's so much I haven't heard. Like every time I talk to somebody, Tool's catalog just gets bigger because I thought that I was like a third of the way through the catalog. And then I realized that there's 2 other entire bands. You know what I'm talking about? Please do reaction to Jambi. What's Jambi? Jambi. I put all that in, but I want to continue listening to Maynard talk here about religion. We're going to continue.
And we hope that that's what we're trying, doing with the music is.
No, I'm going to go back just a little bit.
His eyes were all wide open, and he kind of looked across the room, and his instructor went, just kind of gave him a nod. And that was it. That's all they gave him. You know what I mean? So it's the same kind of thing. It's a discipline where you really can unlock some other stuff if you just open yourself up to it and explore. And we hope that that's what we're trying, doing with the music is bumbling around in the dark until we all come together like monkeys typing on a typewriter. And all of a sudden we just come up with the right thing. And
the allusion to monkeys typing on a typewriter has been used for so many different examples of why reality cannot be fundamentally mechanistic. Right. And I think that this was an argument between Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr. Niels Bohr believed that reality was fundamentally probabilistic. And Einstein maintained until his death, he was a local realist until his death. He said that the universe is fundamentally mechanistic. Right. And so what Maynard is saying is, look, we're fumbling around in the dark until, like monkeys on a typewriter, we stumble upon the truth, right? Like a quantum computer. We're just going to keep trying until the errors lead to, some good solution. And that that presupposes a mechanistic universe. And I don't know how seriously we should take, what Maynard is saying there. Maybe he's just throwing that one out there. But the whole monkeys on a typewriter thing, that kind of presupposes that what's fundamental is some kind of mechanism. And that might be, the first place where there might be kind of a disagreement if he was saying that, in all seriousness.
Ends up being a thing that really the light just kind of comes through. And I don't know that we've done it yet. I think that we're on the path, and that's what people recognize, is that we're on that. We are the monkeys bumbling around, typing on the typewriter, these idiots stumbling around in the dark trying to find the doorway. So it's appreciated for those who are going through a similar process on some other level where they're also doing the same thing. Somewhere else they appreciate what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I appreciate the allusion to, and I'm using allusion wrong, probably. I appreciate him referring back to us as monkeys or primates or animals. Tool is a very good band for reminding you to be humble and to not be so, to drop the illusion of how sure of yourself you are. Whenever I listen to a Tool song, one thing that I'm consistently left with is, stop taking yourself so seriously. That's the big reminder, right? According to Maynard, he said, that it's think for yourself, question authority, right? But you should also use that advice on yourself. Stop thinking that you are the authority in things that you have, a little bit of research on. It's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is, what happens when someone does a little bit of research, they want to figure something out. So they read one article or a page on Wikipedia, and all of a sudden they have more confidence than the scientists that they were just reading about. I've seen that happen a lot. So when you're questioning authority, make sure that you also question yourself as an authority, because you can end up in an echo chamber, right? That was Flame. Paul Smith said, Tool led me to become a mystic. Listen, I might come out and say it, you know what I'm saying? Tool is one of my favorite bands. I really want to hear more, I want to, what I really want to do right now is open up the other interview that Maynard has with, who was it? The Jackass guy, right? Because someone in the comments said that he had done another interview with him. Think for yourself, question authority. Think for yourself, question authority was an old quote from the LSD god, Timothy Leary. Man, dude, you know what's crazy? Timothy Leary rings a crazy bell right now, but at the top of my head, I don't know what Timothy Leary was involved. That's a very important name, though. Steve-O, thank you. Yeah. So should we check out the Steve-O interview? Because I want to know who Maynard really is. It was when you interact with enough of his music, you're just like, bro, what is, what is this guy's deal? He's not like, many other musicians. He's not like a run-of-the-mill guy. I mean, should we check out the Steve-O interviews? Says Bill Hicks delivers the best monologue about drugs. I think the best monologue about drugs was probably Terrence McKenna. Hang on one second, family. 1 second. I mean, we can't watch the whole Steve-O thing. 4 weeks ago. Wait a second. Maynard's honest opinion on being reborn? Yo, fam, it's 9 minutes long. So we can get away with it. Yeah, I'm opening this up. Maynard's honest opinion on being reborn. This is one that I need. Because mystic to mystic, this is going to be some information. You guys ready? check this out. Maynard on Being Reborn.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier that I'm super fixated on this idea of life review and near-death experiences and the spiritual afterlife. Is it very safe to assume, just based on your lyrics, that you believe in consciousness existing separate from the brain?
I am so happy right now, right? Because Steve-O is asking the right questions. Why is it that the last person we heard interview was like, yes, I like butter on my breakfast toast, and do you? And now we have Steve-O, the last person in the world that I would, in respect, with all due respect, I don't know Steve-O like that. But it's like, Steve-O was the jackass guy, the guy that was like, hitting his nuts with staplers and stuff like that when I was a kid. And so to see him now asking such a deep and pertinent question, I love that. I'm immediately enthralled.
Reincarnation.
I think I have probably a darker view on it a little bit. Ooh. I mean, I think it's when it's done. But I think that the responsibility that you have to accept is that you're setting it up for the next version of you.
See, I wish I could ask a follow-up question, because he says, when it's done, as in because what does that mean? Does that mean he doesn't believe that consciousness is fundamental? Because here's how I started off, because when I was a mystic, I became a mystic from a process which began, I thought, just with rational thinking. I thought it was just rational, because it's like either consciousness is fundamental or it is emergent, right? Either it's what everything in the room is, or it emerges from matter and particles and all that stuff. But if you believe that it emerges, then you believe in some kind of magical process where non-conscious stuff becomes conscious stuff. And I couldn't buy that. I don't want magic in my ontology. And so I think that consciousness being fundamental, or some conscious being fundamental, just made more sense. You know what I mean? So I wonder what he means by when it's over, The
responsibility that you have to accept is that you're setting it up for the next version of you. So your DNA going forward, your neighbors, your friends going forward, there's a communal responsibility. Now, when you're talking about the consciousness being separated from this thing, I think there's evidence of that. I absolutely think there's evidence of.
Yo! So okay, that's my fault, because I paused it a little too early. I mean, so he's saying there's evidence of that. I want to see if he believes that. And it looks like this person wants to see too.
That, I just don't know that it's as simple as ghosts and, your consciousness living on. I think it just kind of returns to the whole.
See, I'm telling you, Maynard is, I'm 100% where he's at. It's like, when he says, I don't think that it's like ghosts or anything, like the concept of a ghost, like unfinished earthly business that you somehow remember in a disembodied form, that's not something that I jive with either, right? I think that you remember God upon death. By remember, I mean reestablish membership in. Right. And that's John Vervaeke lingo, by the way, Dr. John Vervaeke. When you remember God, you reestablish membership. You are a member of the whole, as Maynard put it, right?
Consciousness living on. I think it just kind of returns to the whole. But I'm open to, hey, we can talk about it for fucking hours on mushrooms if you want. But you know what I mean? I just don't know.
Okay, it's bucket list. Listen, guys, it's officially bucket listed. I want to do, and can I say this on YouTube? I want to do mushrooms with Maynard. If there was one thing on my bucket list, I'm a man of a certain age. I'm 39, but it would be very, very dope to be on the psilocybin with Maynard talking about this. Guys, if it does ever happen, and look, who knows? I can dream big. You're supposed to dream as big as you want to, right? If that interaction were to ever make itself a reality, if that opportunity were ever visited upon me, I would ask him if he would allow me to share it, to record it and to share it But as of now, I'm dreaming it. It's a part of my wish for 2036 or whenever it happens.
I don't think that there's any. You're literally talking about faith in an idea.
Right.
Right.
Well, I understand the definition of the word faith is belief in something that cannot be proven.
Right. So you
belief in something that cannot be proven. No, I don't think that, because faith is from fide, where we get confide, confidence, right? Fide is faith, right? And so faith is just confidence. But then there's there's fiducia, which is faith too. And like a fiduciary commitment or trust, that's another word for faith. And then there's fidelitas, as in fidelity, that version of faith as in faithfulness. I think there's about 6 different unpackings of the word faith in the religious traditions. But I don't know if I know of any faith that's just believing in something on bad evidence.
The definition of the word faith is belief in something that cannot be proven.
Right. So you
We're
if you're living your life like, okay, so here's a scenario. This person believes in life after death. You're going to be reincarnated in some way. So there's one person that's going to go, well, if I'm coming back, fuck it, let's go for it. Right? Then there's going to be another person going, well, I want a better life next time, so I'm going to like completely not do anything this life because I'm afraid I won't get a better life when I come back.
Right.
Now there's the people that believe there is nothing after death. Same scenario. You got one person going, well, if there's nothing after this, fuck it, let's go for it.
Right.
Or there's the person who's going, well, if there's no life after this, I'm going to covet and suffocate this one that I have because I don't want to die.
So Maynard he's shifting into the pragmatic now, where he's saying like, whether or not there is life after death, you'll get people who interpret either scenario, as sit down and do nothing or get up and go for it. So, I mean, pragmatically, there's not really much of a change in action, based on what you believe, not necessarily.
Right. So
right.
It's not really like the people who believe in afterlife or don't. It's more like what do you choose to do with that belief, right? I feel like I'm kind of treading the middle. I'm kind of prepping to be safe and,
right.
But also going for it.
I think that there's a certain logic to metempsychosis. Like metempsychosis is what metempsychosis is reincarnation. It's another word for reincarnation. There's a little bit of evidence for that in the fact that we're here, right? So this is something that the universe just does, right? And I think that's transcendent of worldview, meaning you don't have to be a religious person to see that. It's like, well, the universe is doing something, and the thing that the universe is doing includes stuff like me and like you, right? So if the universe just does that with this kind of energy, then when I give this kind of energy back, why wouldn't I come back as this thing that the universe is still doing, right? That was kind of a rough way of putting it. But, reincarnation has, a bit more backing it than just kind of the woo-woo. I don't know if I believe in reincarnation or not. I haven't looked as deeply into it.
Good. I think that it would be pretty unfair if this was it and there's nothing next, because what of the children who die prematurely and didn't get the chance? Like, there's so many different situations where you think, oh wow, like it just wouldn't be fair if this was a one-shot deal and there's nothing after but dirt. I think the idea that
can I just say really quick, because Steve-O they're both using the word nothing afterwards. And from a mystic perspective, this is kind of what made the works of who was the Christian mystic. His name is escaping my mind. The most famous Christian mystic, Meister Eckhart. Got it. Meister Eckhart. One of the reasons that Meister Eckhart is a little bit difficult to grok on the first read is because he does believe that that after death there is nothing. But by nothing, he just means no thing, as in God is not a thing, right? Things are either sensory objects, mental objects, or physical objects. So this pen is a physical object. It's also a sensory object because I can see it. It looks white. I can feel it. It looks smooth. And then, there's a degree to which it's a mental object. I've conceptualized it, right? But when all of those objects disappear, then you're left with reality. And reality is no thing. It doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. It just means God is not a thing. So when they say nothing happens after death, they don't necessarily mean that there is no God. They just mean that there is no thing. And I agree there.
But dirt. I think the idea that that you can come back to evolve more, to accomplish things, face different challenges. That to me makes more sense, and that's what
it does. But I think also, but to add a detail to that, if we're setting up a video game here, is that you're not allowed to remember.
Yep.
Thank you, Pariah, for that super chat. I will get to it after the stream here. But I appreciate you sending that in. Anybody who can send super chats in, I deeply appreciate you for that. Helps the channel.
But I think also, but to add a detail to that, if we're setting up a video game here, is that you're not allowed to remember.
Yep, that's part of the deal.
So that's the only thing, is you might be something in you that leans towards a thing you set up in a previous life, but you're not allowed to remember. You literally have to start over.
See, and here's the thing, right? What if the mystics are right? What if not the mystics, the ancient wisdom? What if the ancient wisdom is right? That the human experience is the forgetting part, right? It isn't that when you die you won't remember Earth. It's that you will remember that Earth was such a tiny microcosm of the divine reality that you've always been a part of. That you no longer isolate your earthly experience, right? So right now, our experience is all about isolation. If you're looking at me, you're isolating me. You're ignoring my background and you're foregrounding me. If you're listening to my voice, you're ignoring background noises and you're foregrounding my voice, right? So after you die, right, you remember. You're like, oh my gosh, I was ignoring everything. I was ignoring everything in order to isolate, in order to do this foregrounding, backgrounding game, in order to play the past, present, future game, or the this is over here and that is over there game. But when all of that melts away and it's just pure presence, right? I think of that as a remembering. Not that we've forgotten Earth, but that we've remembered everything else. Like after death, you remember everything. It's like because the brain is something which is like, it's purpose driven, it's goal driven. It has to ignore so much in order to pay attention to the little goal, right?
The thing is, you might be something in you that leans towards a thing you set up in a previous life, but you're not allowed to remember. You literally have to start over.
Right, because if you could remember, then
it'd be fucking easy. Then you'd
have
fucking
a cheat code.
It's totally cheating.
Yeah, you would have a cheat code, and you're.
What's so dope to me about Maynard saying, if you could remember, it's like cheating, right? And using the word cheating means that there's a part of Maynard who sees all of this as a game, because that's what you use. If you're cheating, you're playing some kind of game here. Right, and that's a very mystic thing to say. I love that use of terminology there.
It wouldn't be much of an accomplishment to be good for the sake of being good.
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's part of it. Is why are you being good? Are you being good because there are consequences for being bad?
Right.
Then there's people who just like they're just good because somebody told them they have to be good. Well, that's boring. Like,
Right.
be good because A, you don't want to fucking be a dick, but also because there's consequences for being a dick.
Right. Yeah. I
See, he says, be good just because, you don't want to be a dick, and because there's consequences. Yeah, and I don't think that it's necessarily, it's egocentrically irrational to be a dick, right? Because it's not in keeping with your own best interest. There's a part of you which is a cultural creature. You have a cultural self. Human beings don't make sense without their culture. Our language doesn't make sense without our culture. So if you're not being the best you can be for your culture, then that's a very idiotic game to play that'll be relatively short-lived, I think.
But also because there's consequences for being a dick.
Right. Yeah. I question that about myself a lot.
But just following rules to follow rules are kind of
right.
That's gets you where we are right now.
I find it interesting that that you seem to question whether your consciousness as you know it in this body continues at the end of the body. You seem to question that, but at the same time, you describe the creative process not as building something, but tuning into something.
Before Maynard answers that question, one of the difficult things is like saying that consciousness is something we have, right? And because that introduces an immediate modal confusion. Consciousness doesn't seem to be something I have. It seems to be something I am, right? I have hands. I have a head. I have a black shirt. I have a microphone. But consciousness is not something I have. It's something I am, right? So consciousness has this hat. Consciousness has hands now. I am embodied consciousness, right? But when you say consciousness is something you have and they have one and you have one, I think that's kind of what casts this word spell on us, which makes us think that after the brain dies, that, consciousness dies, because we confuse it for something we have. But saying you have consciousness doesn't really make a lot of sense when you think about it.
Process not as building something, but tuning into something.
Right.
So the idea that there's a signal there,
yes,
that
I agree with the signal
we're receiving.
We are all light, and everything is light.
Right. So
he's a mystic. He's a mystic for sure.
Those two kind of perspectives seem at odds with each other.
A little bit, but yeah, probably. I am absolutely a walking contradiction. And the word "dick" is in there somewhere.
See, like so Maynard has drank the Tool Kool-Aid. He's somebody who's walking the walk and not just talking the talk. When he says, yeah, I'm a walking contradiction, he's saying, look, I'm okay with the fact that what I think over here doesn't necessarily match how I feel over here quite yet. Or the fact that my thoughts on this end tend to sometimes frustrate my ideas on this end. It really is only a story that the ego makes up, that you are just this full, coherent, rational being, that all of your thoughts rationally make sense together, right? There's a lot of contradictions because you have cultural experiences and rational experiences and biological urges that, all make you prime for self-deception, right? So it's a beautiful thing for him to admit. It's like, yeah, I have some contradictory, beliefs, and I'm not ashamed of that.
Contradiction. And the word "dick" is in there somewhere. Yeah, I mean it's there, but I think if you consider, everything is light, right? And
light, energy, consciousness.
Yeah. So the word for what we call it God now, but like the actual the Hebrew word was or Aramaic words like Yahweh, Jehovah, Alleluia. It's all the same word, and it means light, but it's also the same word for love.
Okay.
It's an infinite, without judgment, unconditional light, and we are all that. And there's there's vibrations of it that separate some of the light from the other pieces of light. If you can tap into that thing, you're actually tapping into all of the light.
See, I haven't disagreed with anything that Maynard has suggested yet, other than maybe his negative spin on the afterlife, which he hasn't yet, deeply unpacked. But when he says that love is fundamental, right, or that God is love, which is, something that I would say, God's love is the dissolution of dissociation. And I feel like Maynard would agree that God, or whatever is fundamental, does not recognize a difference between himself and you. God doesn't recognize any distinction between himself and you. You recognize a distinction between yourself and me, but that, according to the ancient tradition, would be Maya. That's illusion, right? In reality, Atman is Brahman. Your personal private ego self is, in fact, the whole thing, right? And from the perspective of the whole thing, you are not separate. It is only from your finite, egoistic perspective that you are this finite, cut-off thing.
Because it's infinite.
Yeah.
And it's everything. And it's all love and light. So I think you have to figure out how to open up your brain enough to tap into it, and then the floodgates can kind of open for just that creative, because that's what it is. It is creation. It is creative.
I think I just think that there's lots of stages somehow, and
Explain.
Guys, one thing that I love about these two in conversation is that they really embody, one with music and one with action, right? Like Johnny Knoxville is somebody who's broken so many bones just doing things which no one else would imagine doing, right? It's like, if you remember what Johnny Knoxville was into, right? The things that he did were just things that people would just watch and stare at and marvel at because they were so over the top. He treated reality like a game that he was playing, or like a drama of some kind. And what's interesting about him talking to Maynard is that Maynard does the same thing in his music. It's this exploration and this kind of pushing of the boundaries, right?
And
Explain.
I'm into this new.
Someone in the comments said, I love what he's saying, but he's wrong about the meaning of the word Yahweh. Drop some knowledge on us, please. What does Yahweh mean? Please help us out, family.
It's not new. It was written in 1857. It's called The Spirit's Book. And this French guy in 1857 he worked with a bunch of mediums to sort of take dictation from spirits, and there seems to be a lot of demonstrably true things that are articulated in this book.
Okay.
And it describes life in the body as a way for a soul to evolve, that we forget, and we're in this life presented with opportunities to do good or not do good, and the purpose of it all is for the spirit to become more pure and sort of work its way back to union with God. And the whole purpose is for having experience, because
right. It's all about the experience.
See. Maynard, and I memorized this, that black and white are all I see in my infancy, red and yellow then came to be, reaching out to me, lets me see, right? That was written by Maynard, and it helped me to memorize the Fibonacci sequence and how it goes, right? How life kind of blossoms up and the opponent processing in that.
Yeah.
The idea, I've heard it's described similarly, where you've actually slowed your vibration down to experience the mud.
Yeah.
You're here to take in the mud. That's why I always got wound up about going to Sedona and all these people trying to ascend or just meditating. Dude, you just fucking got here. Why are you trying to get back there? Wallow.
Right.
Be here. Feel the pain, the hurt, the joy, all those things. That's why you're here. to gather gather those experiences for the collective.
Gather
right?
all
You're trying
those
to get out. You're like,
experiences.
I'm going to ascend. Dick. The fucking cruise ship just left the fucking harbor. You're trying to get back to fucking mainland?
Yo.
No. Enjoy the fucking cruise ship. Get herpes. Come on. Do it.
Family, that was Maynard James Keenan saying, go out there and get herpes. Like, I wouldn't recommend it, guys. The word spell. Yeah. Kathy's, thank you for joining us. Let me get to the super chats before I let you go. Guys, I've got all the information that I needed. I mean, we're gonna interact with Maynard some more, but I think that he and I are basically where we mirror each other when it comes to our religious understandings. Let's see here. Someone says, would reincarnation negate the concept of remembering God? Feels like you'd have to maintain identity in some form. Yeah, so reincarnation, so think about this, right? If you think of, anyone who is a science educator, and let's say they're trying to get you to understand, the quantum field, right? They're going to try to get you to imagine a lake. Imagine a perfectly still lake, right? With no ripples. And then imagine kind of dropping something in there, and now you have waves on the lake, right? And those waves are something that the lake is doing. They don't make any sense apart from the lake. They are the activity of the lake. And so in my opinion, and I think in Maynard's too, we are one such ripple, right? We are the activity of God. We are something that God is temporarily doing, right? And so reincarnation would just mean that when this wave crests over and falls back into the lake, then there will be another wave. There'll be another kind of, and what that would mean is that there wouldn't necessarily be any contradiction, because after you crest over and you return, right, that would be physical death. And then you ride the next wave out, right? And you get to experience another. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the way that it works. I don't have enough evidence for metempsychosis or reincarnation to say that that's true. But it could be, and I understand the argument of those that say, like, look, this is what the world does. The world peoples. The universe just does this weird life thing, and I'm a part of that energy. And so I'll always be a part of that energy. I'll always come back as something else. Cool. I haven't heard a good enough philosophical argument to take that to the bank, but that doesn't mean that that can't be the case. My man Phantom says, mushrooms with Maynard sounds like a banging talk show for Sunday mornings. Yeah, boy. I know Maynard would be down. I think that YouTube would shut it down, if we called it that. It'd be so dope to have a conversation. I'm just gonna reach out. I'm just gonna reach out. What's the worst that can happen? If I reach out to Maynard and be like, hey, I want to have a deep dive conversation with you on my channel. And, let's see where we agree, where we disagree. Because one thing that I do know about Maynard is all of his music is attempting to open the mind, right? Some need a more forceful message in order to get that, to give themselves intellectual permission to be a free thinker. And others just kind of need a gentle nudge. And maybe that's what the three bands are about. But, I completely and totally respect that man's journey. And I agree 100% with how he feels. It says, do you believe you can control the quantum energy field? Yeah. If anybody has control, it's conscious entities, right? Isn't that what control means? To control something means to intend around it. So, if I'm one of those beings that has intention, then yeah, anything that's going to have intention visited upon it is going to have it done so by a being like myself, probably. Hopefully. Badly says, is there any sign of a Rin interview or a Renterview? Rin's people have not gotten back to me. I've only reached out to them once. I'm a very, I never want to be a burden. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to a mind like Rin. That man's a genius. He's very busy. He's working on the Chris Webby thing, getting that dropped. He's doing more music with Chinchilla. He's going to be on tour with 21 Pilots. And the last thing he needs is me and his DMs. That's the last thing that Rin needs right now. But I have reached out to his team. They have not reached out back to me. I mean, how many times does it become obsessive, right? I've only reached out once, right? So what should I reach out once every other month? What do you guys think would be, reasonable to not make it weird? You know what I mean? I mean, maybe I sent too much kiss emojis with the DM that I sent him. Maybe he got weirded out by it. I'm just joking. I wouldn't do that, Ren. Whoa, Lucence, why are you goated, buddy? Look at all of these gifts, memberships. Lucence is one of the ones. He's really helped out in the Discord. Please go to the Discord server if you want to have conversations like these with amazing people like Lucence and Phantom and myself. And, Lucence, you're amazing. Kat says they know you aren't a sandwich now, at least. No, we don't know if they know I'm not a sandwich, because Rin said, I'd love to do an interview with the Biscuit, but is he a sandwich or something? I don't know if they actually got the not a sandwich message, right? The word on the street is I'm still a sandwich, according to Rin's team. Woodworking Gunny says materialism negates free will. So no, a materialist controls nothing. They are merely effects of physics. See, the problem with that is, what do you mean by me? If you're a materialist and you say you don't control anything, what do you mean by me? What kind of process in the materialist world do you get to isolate and call that Mr. Biscuit? Is it some region in the brain that's called me? What are you calling me? Because we can very quickly kind of tiptoe into, ecological ignorance if we kind of forget, to include me in the atmosphere that I'm in, right? So it's like, what does the materialist mean when he says, I'm not in control? What's me to the materialist, right? Is it my spacesuit? Is it my cultural heritage? Is it my upbringing? What do you mean by me? Someone says, have you experienced any other something other than Ren? Any other Werby other than Ren? Rewrite that. I'm not sure what that one means. Someone says, we have an absolutely incredible community. Mr. B is the man. Listen, the Discord community is really, really something else. I wish there was more chat rooms in there. One day I'm going to just run up in there and just create rooms, because I like talking like this instead of typing. But it is an incredible community over there, and we're growing it, thanks to people like Lucence. Someone says, how about once a month or once a week you have a sub join you live for philosophical discussion? You mean a subscriber of the channel? I would love that. Who would be down to do that? Somebody email me. The email is mrbiscuitspeaks@gmail.com. I would absolutely love to go live and have conversations. And we can make it, what's today? Today's Thursday. We can make it a Thursday thing. Chris Webby, he has an incredible journey. I'm actually going to the Chris Webby show in a couple of weeks. I have backstage passes. I'm going to give you guys all the insights on the Webbyverse, because he's coming out to Spokane. I have the backstage passes. I think that this VIP pass, I can play video games with Chris Webby. My buddy got the all access tickets. And so, we're going to, and it's Webby and Token. Token has bars. So I'm going definitely to the Webby Token show here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be incredible. It says, but if you rearrange the letters of materialism, there is a tism. family, look, I enjoyed this very much. I love you guys. Meet you guys on the flip side. I just wanted to get Maynard's honest opinion on being reborn, get his kind of religious takes. So 100%. Guys, love you. Thanks for joining me. I will see you next time, famo.